Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, for the last, half decade, the Tesla Model Y has basically been the universal soldier of the car world.
It really has.
Yeah.
Whether you bought one in Berlin, Shanghai, or Texas, you were, for the most part, getting the exact same machine.
Right, maybe a different battery supplier, but that's it. It was the ultimate standardized product.
And that standardization is, I mean, it's arguably the secret sauce of Tesla's whole valuation. It's what allowed them to scale manufacturing so aggressively.
One robot, one chassis, one global process.
Exactly.
But as we're sitting here in January 2026, that whole era of uniformity is, well, it's officially over. We are looking at a real fracture in the product line.
A fork in the road.
It is. We have a stack of reports here from Driven, Z-Car, Arena EV, and they all tell a story of two completely different cars wearing the exact same badge.
So the mission for this deep dive is to untangle that complication. We need to explain really clearly and objectively the difference between the new stretched Model YL that's launching in Asian markets and is heading to Australia
Right.
versus the updated 2026 Model Y that was just released here in the U.S.
And let's just, set the table here, because I think a lot of people hear update and they immediately think, what? Software, a new bumper.
Sure.
But we're talking about fundamental changes to the actual metal structure of the car, right?
We are. And it's crucial we separate the manufacturing specs from the marketing expectations. We're going to look strictly at what the chassis and the interior configurations offer, especially when it comes to passenger comfort and, real-world utility.
Okay, so let's jump right into the big news coming out of Shanghai. This is the Model YL. It launched in China back in August 2025, and now it's been approved in South Korea, slated for Australia. What exactly is this L identity?
The L stands for long. This is the Shanghai-built variant, and the key engineering change here is, well, it's physical.
They've literally stretched the chassis.
They have physically stretched it.
How much of a stretch are we talking about?
The data is a little bit noisy depending on the source. The Driven cites an increase of roughly 186 millimeters,
Okay.
while Z-Car notes it as 150 millimeters.
So that's a difference of what, an inch and a half or so?
Yeah, it probably depends on whether they're measuring wheelbase hub to hub or just total bumper to bumper length. But the result is a vehicle with a significantly longer wheelbase. We're looking at a total length of 4.96 meters.
That's a substantial increase. I mean, that's pushing into full-size SUV territory.
It is. And they also increased the vehicle height by 44 millimeters. The whole goal was pretty clearly to, change the math on the inside space.
And what's underneath that bigger body? Because usually bigger means heavier, and heavier means a penalty on range or efficiency.
It does weigh more, about 2,090 kilograms. But the specs approved in South Korea show it's running an 88.2 kilowatt-hour battery pack.
Okay.
The report suggests this is likely the LG nickel manganese cobalt, or NMC pack.
Let's pause on that acronym. NMC versus, say, the LFP lithium iron phosphate packs we see in the standard range models. Why does that matter here?
It all comes down to energy density. LFP batteries are great, they're durable, cheaper, but they are heavy for the amount of energy they store.
Right.
If you try to power this heavier, stretched Model YL with an LFP pack, your range would take a pretty big hit. NMC packs are just more energy dense. They pack more kilowatt hours into a lighter footprint.
So they're using the premium chemistry to offset the weight gain from the chassis stretch.
Exactly. And that allows it to maintain a really respectable range. The certification data lists it at approximately 553 kilometers.
And it's still quick.
Oh, yeah. It's propelled by dual motors producing just under 380 kilowatts combined. So despite the bulk, it is not sluggish.
Okay, but what about the ride? When you stretch a wheelbase like that, you change the physics of the car, don't you?
You do. You change the pitch and roll characteristics. To manage this, the sources all mention an upgrade to continuously variable dampers.
So similar to what's in the performance model or the Model 3 Highland.
Correct. It's an active suspension. Instead of a static shock absorber that reacts the same way to every single bump, these can adjust their stiffness in milliseconds.
So it can firm up in a corner, then soften on a highway seam.
Precisely. And that is a huge detail for a family hauler. If you're stretching a car and adding seats, you absolutely need that suspension to manage the extra mass so passengers in the far back aren't, getting seasick.
Okay, let's get into that interior. Because the whole point of stretching this thing, of retooling the gigacasting machines, was to fit more people in, right? A six-seater?
A 2+2+2 configuration, to be specific. And this is where the difference from the US model becomes really stark. The star of the show in the Model YL is the second row.
The sources describe them as independent captain's chairs.
Yes, this is a clear move towards what you might call rear passenger luxury. In the Asian market, especially China, the second row is often the priority. It's the boss seat.
So these aren't just a bench seat split in half.
No, not at all. They're heated, they're ventilated, they feature retractable armrests, adjustable headrests.
That sounds more like a luxury minivan than a compact SUV.
And that's the whole intention. You can control these features from the rear 16-inch screen or buttons on the seat itself. You have to remember the market context. In China, the Model Y is up against vehicles like the Onvo L90 and the Li Auto i8. Those cars go all in on rear seat comfort.
So Tesla had to respond.
They had to.
So the second row is the good news, but this is where it gets interesting and maybe a little tight. The third row, we have a longer car, but does that actually solve the third row problem?
That is the pivotal question. And according to the reviews we have from Zcar and The Driven, the answer is, well, it's complicated.
Complicated usually means no, doesn't it?
It means there are some very real physical compromises.
Yeah.
Despite the longer body, you're still dealing with a coupe-style roofline. It slopes down aggressively at the back.
Oh.
So while you might have more length for your legs, you don't necessarily have more vertical space for your head.
Headroom is still the main issue.
Very much so. The reviews suggest there's minimal clearance for anyone over 170 centimeters. That's about 5'7".
Taller than that, and your head is touching the glass.
Either the roof or, the rear glass. And speaking of the glass, one of the sources flagged a specific issue with heat.
Right, I saw that.
The rear window is just very close to your head in that third row. And in a glass-roof car, even with tinting, that raises some real concerns about sun exposure and heat.
It's not like a metal roof with a headliner. It's radiating heat right onto you.
Directly onto the passenger. Not great for a long trip. And then there's the floor. There's a mention of a hump.
How big?
A 100-millimeter central hump. It's likely structural reinforcement for the longer chassis, but it makes getting in and out pretty difficult. And the seats themselves are described as bench-like.
Limited thigh support.
Very limited. The consensus is that these are for short trips or emergency use only. This is not a full-time six-seater for adults. It's really a luxury four-seater with 2 jump seats.
And what about cargo? With 6 people inside, where do you put anything?
Well, the total boot space is listed as up to 2,500 liters, which sounds enormous.
But,
And it is a big but, that's only when the second and third rows are folded completely flat.
okay, so that's van mode, not passenger mode.
Exactly. When all the seats are up, the space is actually pretty small.
Yeah.
You're really relying on the frunk and maybe some underfloor storage.
Okay, so that's the Model YL for the Asian and Australian markets. A stretched 6-seater focused on second row luxury with a tight third row. Now let's pivot to the US, because if you're in America and you order a 2026 Model Y, you are not getting this car.
Correct. And we need to be very explicit here to avoid any confusion. The U.S. update is not the Model YL.
But the headlines all say the third row is back.
It is. The 7-seat option has returned to the U.S. configurator after being gone for a while. But, and this is the key, it's being applied to the standard wheelbase chassis.
So they're putting more seats in without stretching the car at all.
Precisely. The U.S. body dimensions are completely unchanged.
Yeah.
Length is 187 inches. Wheelbase is 113.8 inches. No extra metal has been added.
And what's the cost and availability on that? Because you can't just add it to any Model Y, right?
It's a $2,500 option, and importantly, you can't get it on the base model. It's restricted to the premium all-wheel drive long-range model.
So you have to buy the more expensive powertrain just to have the option to pay more for the extra seats. Why do that?
It's likely a mix of margin protection and weight management. 7 people, even if some are kids, adds a lot of payload mass. Tesla probably wants to ensure the vehicle has the torque and battery to handle a full load without feeling slow.
So what does this mean for this space reality, as we call it? If the Chinese long version is already tight in the back, the US version must be.
Extremely tight. Since no extra legroom was added, that third row remains very, very small. The sources are clear. It is suitable primarily for children. This is not some magically expanded cabin. It's a density update, not a volume update.
You're just subdividing the existing space into smaller pieces.
That's a perfect way to put it.
It's interesting they even brought it back. But beyond the seats, the US update does have some cosmetic changes, right? The premium trim updates.
Yes, and these are largely aesthetic and tech-focused. They've changed the headliner from light gray to black.
Which seems like a small thing, but it does change the feel inside.
It does. It creates a more unified, maybe stealthier look. And they've also updated the center screen. It's now the 16-inch high-resolution unit, which, interestingly, matches the screen in the Chinese Model YL.
So there is some tech parity there.
In the interface, yes.
Mhm.
On the outside, they've gone for that stealth look as well. All the chrome badging is now black, and they have new dark gray 20-inch Helix 2.0 wheels.
It sounds like they're just trying to make it look a bit tougher, a bit more aggressive, a visual refresh.
It's a smart way to refresh the aesthetic without any expensive retooling of the body panels. It keeps the car looking new on the lot.
And to close the loop on the US side, any sign that the long version might eventually come to America?
Elon Musk has indicated that the longer Model YL might not reach the US until late 2026, if it comes at all. So for the foreseeable future, this divergence is real.
So what does this all mean? Why would a company that's obsessed with efficiency split its product line like this?
I think if we analyze the divergence, it tells us a lot about the specific demands of these two huge markets. In China, the car market is hyper-competitive on interior luxury. Those captain's chairs are a status symbol.
Right, you want your passengers to feel like they're in an executive car, even if it's a family SUV.
Exactly. Whereas in the US, the market is getting a cosmetic refresh with a high-density seating option. The US market tends to see that third row as a just-in-case feature.
For the neighbor's kid or a short trip to soccer practice.
It's functional density over luxury comfort.
But it seems like both models are running into the same fundamental problem.
The wall of physics and design.
The shape.
The coupe SUV shape. That's the central tension we're seeing in both versions of this car.
Because everyone loves that swooping roofline. It looks aerodynamic, it looks sporty.
And it is aerodynamic, which is critical for EV range. That low drag coefficient is how the Model Y gets such great efficiency numbers. But form is absolutely fighting function here.
So stretching the wheelbase, like in the Model YL, adds legroom.
It solves the knee problem, but it does not solve the roofline problem.
You can't just stretch the roof upwards without destroying the aero and the look.
Precisely. So the trade-off is clear. They are prioritizing aerodynamic efficiency and style over genuine adult-sized third-row utility. They're pushing this coupe shape to its absolute limit.
It really just highlights that you can't have it all. You can have the range and the looks, or you can have the boxy headroom for a real third row.
It really raises a big question for the consumer and for the whole industry, really. At what point does the need for SUV utility force a return to a boxier design?
That's a great thought to end on. As electric SUVs become the default family car, are we seeing the absolute limit of how much utility you can squeeze into a coupe shape? Before manufacturers are just forced to go back to boxier designs for genuine 6- or 7-seater comfort. It's something to think about.
And before we go, I would just like to extend a sincere and calm thank you to you, the listener. We know your time is valuable, and we genuinely appreciate you lending us your ears and your attention to explore these details with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.